You're listening to the NeuroSpice Life podcast.
And I'm Hanna, sexologist, sensologist, lovable weirdo, oversharer, and not sorry about it.
And I'm Freya, alexithymic counsellor, mum, chaos wrangler, and happy little steamroller.
Whether you're neurotypical or neurodiverse, our podcast is for everybody and every brain that has ever been labelled.
Welcome back. I'm Freya.
I'm Hanna.
And today we're discussing all things sensitive.
I love sensitivity. I love being sensitive. And I know it can also be construed as a bad thing, right? You know, oh, you're too sensitive.
You're so sensitive.
You're so sensitive.
Stop being so sensitive.
It was just a joke.
Yeah. Get over it.
If it was just a joke, it would have been funny.
Yeah.
And I feel like you and I have talked about this topic quite a lot, and we actually both experience this wildly differently.
So differently. And I know that will shock you. I know everyone who's listening along now and's done a few episodes is like, oh no, they're so the same.
Oh yeah. Hey, opposites attract.
That's it. So true. So true. And the funny thing, as we say that too, right, and not to digress too much, but as we're saying that too, like I'm sitting here, jeans, t-shirt, scarf, you know, my usual uniform, for want of a better word, and Hannah's here in the most beautifully stunning, like floral dress, matching the environment, just looking like a Greek goddess at a picnic in the corner. And I'm like, opposites do attract.
I love this dress because it has pockets.
Pockets.
I love pockets.
That's what I love about the jeans.
I will sew pockets into my clothes if they don't have any.
Love that.
Yeah.
Good. Let's do that. Let's get a line of pocket dresses in nice soft fabrics that don't irritate our sensibilities.
Absolutely. With no labels.
With no labels. I love it.
I mean, literally and also literally.
Literally no labels.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. But yes, we do experience sensitive and being called sensitive very, very differently.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your sensory?
My sensory aspects. I was wondering what words you were going to add in there. I was just like, pause, aspects. It's a very gentle, nice way of describing what happens in my body and my world. So yeah, for me, I'm someone that's got quite a few sensory needs. And for a long time, I wasn't necessarily aware, right? Because this is the body I live in. And so you kind of just assume everyone else experiences the world in the same way you do. I say this bit, spoiler alert, they don't. So yeah, for me, like quite pronounced sensory needs, even from a really young age. So food textures is like a big one for me. And hopefully I don't want to trigger anyone too much with this, but like soggy kind of things like cereal, banana, like textures are really, really big one for me. I'm also a taste seeker. So I'll always be adding like vinegar, salt,
you like umami.
Sour, umami. Like I love that trifecta of like.
It's just fun to say.
Umami. Say it with me, umami. But yeah, like that full, like, so I seek out a lot of flavour in my food, but certain textures are like an absolute hard pass, no go. For me, lighting is really difficult. I really struggle with lots and lots of bright lights and really struggle with visual clutter. It can be hard for me to see things. Hubby lives in dark mode on his phone. Ironically, I live in light mode in my phone, and I go to use his phone. I'm like, I can't see anything. And he goes to use my phone. He's like, I can't see anything. So it's really quite funny, technology in our house. But yeah, those type of things, smells, I've got an incredible sense of smell. And when I was pregnant, it was like next level. But like I can get ice out of the freezer and like I'll be like, there's off ice cream, like there's stale ice cream somewhere in this freezer. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, it smells like milk, right? This ice tastes and smells like milk. So quite acute senses there. Fabrics, certain feelings on my skin. Like I remember when I was a kid, I couldn't run with a softball glove on, and people would get so like, because I would take the softball glove off and run and then put it back on to try and catch the ball. And I explained to them, I can't have it on my hand because it itches. And they're like, can you just stop being so sensitive? Like, you're not catching the ball. I'm like, but I can't wear the glove. You know, just getting stuck in this kind of circular argument about it. So there's those ones. And then there's also as well, you know, proprioception. So I don't have a great degree of proprioception. So I do not know where my body starts and ends. So crowds are really scary for me. And I'm also super clumsy. I love that. My interoceptive capabilities are really low. So I can't feel or necessarily interpret what's happening in my body. But vestibular, I love swinging, spinning, and like you're totally the opposite there. So like you get
I am so motion sick.
So motion sick. And for me, I'm just like, the more the better, like hit me up. I find it really relaxing. Like if you put me on like a centrifuge or something like that, I'd probably go to sleep on you.
Oh my God.
It's so good.
You know, for me, and it's very appropriate because I'm wearing like my half Daria, half Princess Leia earrings, because it always reminds me of, you know, this comment from Daria where she's like, usually when I have this dream, I'm wearing pink taffeta. And that
That would
me
be a nightmare for me.
is my layer of
Texture.
hell as well. So that is very interesting.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. Like when you talk about that, and you go, well, that's not such a big deal. But for my entire life, I didn't realize that these needs were different. I couldn't recognize that the environment that I was in was actually hurting my body, if that makes sense. Because what we don't realize about a lot of sensory needs is it's linked into your nervous system. So your parasympathetic nervous system's always filtering in, you know, information back to your central nervous system, which is like your brain and your spinal cord, and saying, are you safe or not?
Yeah.
Right? Are you safe or not? Are things okay or not? And so constantly for me throughout the day, like my environment was hostile, and, you know, like
Hostile work environment.
hostile work environment, hostile home environment, hostile everything. And I wouldn't necessarily realize. So like I was getting these signals back, feeling on edge, but not able to identify why. And then coupling that with a lower level of interoception, which is my ability to interpret what's happening in my own body. So literally, like if I get 30 seconds notice to go to the toilet, it is a good day. Like that is a win, you know, like I can go an entire day, get to 6 o'clock at night and go, feeling really like cranky and I've got a headache. What's going on? Oh, I haven't eaten.
I haven't drunk water today.
I haven't drunk water today. You know, all of that kind of stuff. But it also means from an emotional perspective, from a nervous system perspective, often I won't identify feelings until they're really big. So for those people that have been listening along, you will realize I'm not the most emotional person in the history of the world. I think, I can't remember what was our episode on that where we dive into that in a little bit more detail. But like, I'm not someone that's outwardly an emotional person. Self-centered. Yeah. Like serial killer calm is how I'm described in most days. So it can also be quite frightening for people, or like really confusing for people when like I'm like okay, and then I'm suddenly not okay, and it's kind of like in my body's been giving me these cues and saying, you're angry, you're angry, you're angry, you're angry, but I don't realize until the volume is turned up to a 12.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can't interpret those signals in my body till I'm like really
You're
mad.
there.
Like road rage mad. Like, yeah. It's a really kind of living with that disconnect and probably starting to understand that. And what's happening there for me has been, you know, amazing. But for me, mental health, mental well-being and physical well-being and my sensory needs being met, then they're two things that are very much, you know, aligned together and trying to improve that awareness of what's happening in my body before it gets to an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
And for you, it's completely different. For you, it's the feels.
I mean, it is very different, but at the same time, I think when we've got that in common, where we both hit that overload, we both hit that limitation.
Yeah.
It's okay until it's not okay.
Sure.
It's like my sense of time is there is, you know, the immediate past. There is the things that I wish I could go back in time and change.
Yeah.
There is sort of now, soon, and then all of a sudden there is, oh shit, now.
Like right now.
Like right now.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you did in the last few years, which I have thought was absolutely life-changing, both for yourself, and I've tried it myself, but it's hard to keep it in mind sometimes, which is it's about cutting the amount of decisions out of your day.
Yeah, the simplification.
The simplification. And so your changes to your wardrobe, which we also talked about in a different episode.
Even exhibited in the uniform. Anyone watching the video of this can see that my day is various like
jeans and a t-shirt.
Jeans and a t-shirt, yeah. And that's even a lot of choice for me. But I'm like, Hannah's like, you probably like, they need to know you've showered.
But also,
like,
but it's everything, right? It's understanding that once you make a decision, like even if it pisses somebody else off to change your mind, if you're taking something off your plate and you consider how many decisions you make in a day, and I consider how many I make in a day, and I'm not a parent, as opposed to how many decisions from the moment you get up to the moment you go to sleep, how many decisions do you have to make in a day? It is exhausting. And our brains, our psychology, our biology, our central nervous system, no, they weren't built for that.
Can I talk about the analogy here with the
go for
the
it.
airport?
Yeah, it's a fantastic analogy.
It's so like, sorry, not to like cut you off.
No,
Like, if I've got to say it now,
it's
otherwise I'm going to
perfect.
forget. But like, often I talk about like our nervous system in terms of like an airport, right? And so you've got your central nervous system, which is like your brain and your spinal column, and that's kind of like your control tower. So it doesn't actually physically fly a plane, but like it's accountable for making the decisions, making sure things are released, stop, start, continue, you know, all of that sort of stuff. You've then got your like parasympathetic nervous system, which is like your runways and your airplanes and stuff, right? They take the people where it needs to go. It's like conveying messages back and forth, you know, getting the cargo where it needs to be safely, right? And so our parasympathetic nervous system is sending messages all the day from the outside world back to control tower, all constantly, all day long. And you've got your autonomic nervous system, which is stuff we don't even think about, like our respiration, our heart rate. And that's kind of like your radars, you know, your things at airports that beep and alert and all of that sort of stuff, in theory, to make the life easier of the traffic control tower, right? And you go, that sounds amazing. That makes so much sense. That's an airport. Like we've got Heathrow right there. Like it's humming and it's going really, really well. And then the part of our brains, right, and this is where it links into decision making, our brains weren't designed for this level of decision making. So you think about the traffic control tower and you think about like the traffic controller, the air traffic controller that sits in the tower, and that's kind of like your amygdala, right? Picture it's busy, London Heathrow or a busy airport near you today. Picture that traffic controller was trained 70 years ago, like not 17, 70 years ago, when there were no computers, when there was maybe one plane a day. You know, everything was manual calculations. Everything was slower. You know, you had to do eye scanning, all of this sort of stuff. It's designed for a completely different world, right? And so that air traffic controller all the time is constantly going, oh, that's not right, responding to every single beep, nudge, and we're tipping more and more in and out of fight and flight and these responses. But our brain was built for a different time where we maybe made 4 decisions a day, and the hardware is not kept up with the world.
No, evolution has done amazing things, but we are moving faster than what evolution can keep up with.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing, it was a documentary talking about the damage that we're doing to our central nervous system on a day-to-day basis. I think about how much I hate driving in the city.
Yes.
Driving in the city, and I come from Melbourne, right? So, you know, hook turnistan is, you know, as it's, you know, colloquially known.
And sorry, hook turn, just for anyone that's not from Melbourne, Google it. But basically it's where you do a right-hand turn from the left-hand lane,
very left lane,
in the middle of an intersection.
Yeah.
So you roll forward in the left-hand lane to where you've literally got a bank of cars on your left facing towards you, and then you wait for the lights to change and turn. There's YouTube on it. Like it's real. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I'm fine with that. The only thing I hate beyond the stop start, which also makes me physically sick, is the parking.
Yeah.
You know, and you think about the most stressful times, you think Christmas shopping parking, you think going to a shopping center, you know, anything along those lines where there's everybody is in a rush, everybody is, you know, struggling and trying to get whatever they need done or want done. And I think about the fact that we were never really designed to be hurtling along in a metal casing,
box. Yeah.
essentially, at 80, 100 kilometers, you know, whatever the case may be.
Dodging things,
absolutely. And there's this constant stress of, and when my dad was teaching me to drive, and I love him for this because there were so many good things that he taught me along the way, and he was the first person to take me out to drive, although hilariously, I didn't understand I was in a European car. And they do miles, not kilometers.
Oh, good.
So I was trying to nudge it up to 60 miles an hour, thinking it was 60 kilometers an hour. And he's telling me to slow down. I'm like, I'm doing the speed limit.
And white knuckling it next to you along the way. Yeah.
And so, you know, from that aspect, he taught me so many things about driving that have really helped calm my central nervous system so that I'm not suddenly making these fast changing, panicked moves. And the first one was, you know, right lane selection.
Yeah.
So not being in the right lane, being in the right lane.
Yeah.
Knowing where your turn is so that you're not cutting across.
Being in the correct lane. Okay, yeah.
Not cutting across 5 lanes of traffic to all of a sudden, you know, take the exit ramp. And
there will be another exit later, people.
And there will be another exit. Like, that's the thing. Like, understandably, you might be in a rush.
In a panic at the moment.
But if you're 5-10 minutes late, as opposed to potentially causing an accident, which is going to make you feel worse, except in Sydney where, you know, the next turn-off's probably not for another, you know, 5-10 kilometres.
But
sometimes.
It will come.
It's fine.
Yeah.
People will forgive you. And the other thing that he told me on the road is that everybody wants to kill you twice. And so while that's not true,
Yeah.
but it helps at the same time, because if I have that attitude, then I drive defensively, not offensively. Just by, we read people's body cues. We can also read like car cues.
Patterns, yeah,
Patterns
and some
as
of us
well.
are really good at patterns.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot inside there, and it's those little decisions that we make on a daily basis that help to regulate.
To do it. But I love that analogy too with driving in a car, right? Because you think about the volume of information that your brain is processing when you're driving at like 80 kilometers an hour, right? What it's taking in, what it's ignoring, all of the buttons, all of the things, everything on our brains weren't designed for that. So much about our modern lives that we lead is just not compatible with how our brains are actually designed and structured and working. So we're kind of almost already at a disadvantage before we even,
absolutely
put the keys in the ignition, or get out of bed in the morning. So yeah, there is absolutely that disconnect, and reducing that cognitive load, reducing that emotional load where we can, providing supports for our brains. And this is true whether you're neurotypical or neurodivergent, like whatever that is, our brains are not designed to be healthy.
That's why there's a fear of flying, because we were never designed to fly.
Yeah.
No matter how many times I wish that I could turn into a bird and fly away, or, grow wings and all of a sudden, zip across to different parts of the planet.
Yeah. It was not on the path.
It's not on the cards.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's that understanding and that compassion and, for our brains and going, yep, wait, I know you're trying to help me. I know you sometimes get it wrong. That's okay. But also having that right operating manual for our bodies. And I think for me, like with sensory environment and managing that and knowing that interoception for me is more difficult. It's having the right operating manual for the equipment that I have and understanding that. And, and since managing my sensory environment and I'm seeing this change with clients as well, right? And occupational therapists are an amazing resource as well that we can tap into. And they've got a whole heap of tools in relation to interoception. Is it's since managing that sensory environment, anxiety for me on a day-to-day basis has gone from 8 or a 9 down to about a 2 out of 10 by managing my environment, by managing my sensory needs. I'm just not hitting those levels of overwhelm. I'm not hitting those levels of explosion as often, and things are just easier, every single day. So, yeah, I'm appearing less sensitive, even though, I'm still having the same needs and experiencing the same challenges with the world around me, but I'm just trying to work with the kit that I've got. Yeah.
Sure.
And what about you and sensitive? Like it's all about the feels, all about the emotions.
Oh my God. I care about so much.
So much.
I care about things I shouldn't care about. I care about things I can't control. I mean, I care about everything. And I find it so overwhelming at times that the emotions just build up behind my eyeballs and then they start coming out. And I don't
Even as you're saying
even
this,
as I'm
you're
saying
starting
it,
to
because
tear up.
I'm experiencing it. And it looks like tearing up, but it's actually like what's going on is that it comes all the way up through my sinuses, and it's a tingling sensation. And then it's like, in the book Matilda, where she, feels this sensation building up behind her eyeballs. The only difference is that I've never been able to make anything levitate. Yeah. Sadly.
Yet. Growth mindset.
Yes.
I haven't been able to make anything levitate yet. Yeah.
And so I think about, why do I care so much? Because I go through what I call care burnout. And so I will go off. There will be times where I will just have to delete all social media off my phone because obviously what I've developed in my algorithm is a series of things that outrage me on a day-to-day basis.
That's healthy.
Which, it's
so healthy.
Totally healthy. And so, I put myself in other people's shoes. I think about, all the things that sort of have been building up over time. And I think a lot about emotions. And, for me, it's like my emotions have free reign, essentially. So there's sort of no controls or checks or anything along those lines. And that sort of, might sound really bad, but the reality is that while I'm going through this whole process, I'm rediscovering my emotions. And so there's this kind of letting them run free while also trying to talk to them at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I think about, for example, like Brene Brown, one of the things, and I think it sort of started when I read Atlas of the Heart, And there was a section where she was talking about the fact that most people can only really name 3 to 10 emotions.
Yeah.
The majority, the average people can really only manage about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And so anywhere that's from, it's happiness, it's joy, it's sadness, it's anger, and it could be
surprise, disgust,
disappointment.
Sadness. If you haven't seen In and Out the movies,
Oh,
I'm sure you do. 1 and 2, amazing.
So good.
So good. Yeah.
And so there's so many more. And
there's dozens. There's literally dozens.
Yeah.
There's a whole module when you do a counselling degree.
Absolutely.
On emotions, like a whole subject.
Yeah.
On emotions and feelings. Most of them were a surprise. I was like, I didn't know you existed. But you don't.
It's true.
Until you learn. Yeah.
And so when I was coming up to my wedding and I was having a chat to my therapist because I knew I was going to break down during my wedding vows.
Yes.
And I did, right? And this is how I
totally did.
Picked up humour along the way. And I also just want to say thank you so much for being the amazing, just the amazing person that you were on the day. And I'm trying to think of the name.
I was the talking head bubble that did the vows for them.
Because we'd already gotten married.
Yeah, you were legally married.
We were legally married. And it actually took a lot of the pressure and the stress off for that day.
It was just a celebration of you guys, which I loved so much.
Yeah, you were the celebrant.
Awesome. Yeah.
And thank you. I finally remembered the word. Yeah. And,
without the qualifications. And no, I can't marry anyone legally, but yeah.
And, and I still have that notebook that you wrote as well. And I'll pick it up. I'll still cry when I read it because it was really touching. I'm doing it again. We should just call these Hanna Cries in Every Episode podcast.
Hanna Cries in the Closet. About being sensitive.
About being sensitive. So it's perfect. It's and it's safe to do so right now.
Mm.
It's not the first time I've cried in a closet. Certainly won't be the last.
But it's the first time doing it with a friend.
Yes. I actually have a really hard time crying in front of people.
Yeah.
Which is ironic given what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So if I ever feel like I'm going to cry, it's like this weird, it's like shoving the sleeping bag back in the container, and it might be really messy, so that when I'm in a safe place, I'll pull it out and I'll have a cry, or I'll watch The Little Princess, the movie.
She said the name, I can't recall what it is, but yeah, I'm sure she'll show me a picture of it and be like, oh yeah.
It might be The Little Princess or A Little Princess, but there are certain trigger movies that I have that I'll watch and I'll get to the end. To cry.
Yeah.
And release it.
It gives you a permissible reason.
100%.
Like 100%, yeah.
And so I think about why I kind of have this sort of different sensitive aspects. And, again, in kind of preparation for the podcast. So, got bullying stories. I think a lot of people can relate to those. But I think about the ways that I used to express myself to friends until it became too much.
Right.
Which is, again, it's another episode. But I would outwardly express my affection towards them. So I would hug them. I would, say hi 1,000 times a day. I would, want to express my feelings towards them until it got to a point where that was considered to be gay.
Oh. And again, growing up in the 90s, that was 80s and 90s, it was a very different time.
And I will correct anybody now if I hear them say, oh, that's so gay. It's no.
That's not.
That's not what that word means.
Yeah.
And so, I used to.
But you'd get rejected for how you feel.
I got rejected from everybody. I got rejected from peers. I got rejected from boys that I had crushes on. And, even there was this one time, and it was really horrible. And I was at a camp, and this guy I had a crush on, he was the cutest guy. And, I'd already told him how I felt, and I'd already been rejected. And so I was dealing with that in my own way. And I was sitting off to the side. I was sitting by myself, and he was talking to the group at General, and he just went, why is it that all the popular pretty girls hate me and all the dogs? And he looks at me like me. And it was really wild.
Brutal.
So, yeah, it was brutal. And, giving this kind of, and again, I'm over 6 foot tall. I'm not a petite person. I never have been. I never will be.
She's like an Amazon goddess.
And that's really
for those
lovely.
people that are lucky enough to meet you. You're full on Amazonian goddess energy. It's amazing.
But it takes a long time, particularly when growing up in the 90s with heroin chic.
Yeah.
To understand and appreciate what that can actually.
The beauty standard was very
the beauty
different.
standard.
Yeah.
It's Oh, that's a whole nother episode too. That's actually a whole nother season. And there's even sort of looking at, the horse riding camps that we went on, and, the guy that I had a crush on then, and then in university, the other guy I had a crush on. And when I had the opportunity to tell him I had a crush on him, and I said, and I was pretty bitter about it too, because it was obvious, I was not his type, and it happens, right? But I was pretty bitter at the time, and I was just like, oh well, it's not like you'd ever date me because I'm not a size 8, and I deeply offended him, of which I apologize for, but it was how I felt at the time. And he said, well, he's like, you like men that are taller than you because you want to feel smaller, and I went, yep. He said, it's a preference.
Yeah,
it's my preference.
Yeah,
and at that point it clicked, and I just went, okay, I think I get this and I understand it now. And I realized it wasn't about me.
No,
in that case,
it was totally about him.
And it was totally about him, but I was making it about me.
Yeah.
Which also probably would have worked really well under the self-centered topic.
I talked about myself an awful lot in that episode. I loved it. Yeah.
But what I did find is that, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and now I have a name for it, was really kicking into it, because there was this, abandonment of choice. I just wanted to be chosen by the person who did not want me. And so it led to a whole series of hilarious circumstances over the years. But it also meant that because I was so desperate to be chosen, and even that word desperate, labeling somebody desperate too, what the need is there is they're desperate to be seen. And unfortunately, paired that with rejection sensitivity dysphoria, it actually leaves you quite open to abusive relationships, which, trigger warning moving forward, and please go back and listen to the trigger warning at the beginning of the episode. But the studies that they've shown is that neurodivergent people are actually more easily prone to being in a abusive relationship, whether that's physical, financial, emotional, spiritual. And I do think about that a lot, because again, it's sort of, we'll be reframing this in compassion. But that susceptibility, because you're so, you just want to be seen.
You just want to be seen.
And in the beginning with the love bombing, like, oh, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Because you think that you've met somebody who gets you.
Finally gets you, and I'm finally seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when that goes away, you spend the rest of that relationship, however long it is, thinking that all you have to do is change the way that you act, what you do, what you say, how you dress. And all you have to do is just change that, and they will love you again.
And you'll get that back.
And you'll get that back.
Yeah.
And then, just as you start pulling away, they'll do it again, and just to suck you back in enough to think. And then, but at the end of the day, it's still all comes down to the projection of what you're doing wrong or what you're doing right.
Yeah.
And so I got to a point where I just sort of took all my emotions and I shoved them deep inside. And now they're getting a chance
layered all the stuff on top of it.
Yeah, and now they're getting a chance to sort of, run free and experience their freedom for the first time.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's safe to come out. So now it comes out in
all the ways.
All the ways.
Yeah. And it's interesting as you say that too, right? And I'm quite analytical, and like looking at that from like purely that statement around, we're more susceptible to abusive relationships, right? Is analytically that kind of makes sense to me in a really horrible way. But if your whole experience of being is that you were wrong, you were defective, your way is the wrong way, right? That's been your whole experience, your whole life. So what's one more person saying that to you, right? Like what's one more person blaming you?
This is my normal.
Right? Like it's your normal. It's just in a different context, because you've literally grown up your entire life going, the foods you eat are weird. Your needs are too much.
Yes.
You're being difficult. Like there's something wrong. There's something defective with you. And we touch on that quite a bit in the difficult episode as well, right? But when that's your narrative, right? Well, of course you're going to be more susceptible to accepting that from another person, because it's just one more person that's telling you what you already know or believe.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work to undo it.
Growing up too, like I've said this before, you're a product of your own environment. So, you know, my mom was like really, really supportive of, you know, who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And Dad, I remember we were driving along one time and he said, you know, whatever you want to do, I'll be supportive of. Except if I want to apparently, you know, go do heroin down in St Kilda.
Sure.
And love that you had high expectations for me.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I felt like all the right messaging was there, which is you're accepted no matter what by my parents, which was great to a certain point. But it didn't necessarily fill the hole because there was something that I was clearly searching for.
Yeah.
And so with sensitive, in the way that I think about it, in the way that how much I care, because I have been bullied. I know you've been bullied too.
Yeah.
But, you know, what came out of it was not wanting to ever see anybody go through that again. Yeah. Same thing for being in an abusive relationship. You know, I'm very fortunate in the sense that I've only had one truly terrible long-term relationship, of which I thankfully got out of. But it was almost at one point I got to a level where I felt like I could flick a switch and not care anymore.
Yeah, okay.
And so, and I had to, because that was self-preservation, right? Because it's like that scene in the labyrinth, which is like, you have no power over me. Yeah. That was really good.
Yeah. But you've got a long history of being rejected.
Yeah.
And dealing with rejection sensitivity.
To be fair, I was going after the wrong people.
Well, yeah, but I mean, lots of different rejection, lots of different angles of your life, right? And as you talk about that too, right? Like I think about that transition. You say I had the right message from my parents, but as we all grow and develop, right? There's these different development stages we go through, and I want to say Erickson, but I'm probably going to get the name wrong. But like you go through, and it's like it starts with your parents, your world, and you get everything you need from them. But then you start working through social relationships and friends, and then it's romantic relationships. So over a period of time, that voice that we have as parents gets so diluted to all of these other factors as we try and find our own place and our space in the world, right? So it's like it's not anything that you've done wrong. It's not anything that your parents have done wrong necessarily, right? It's a product of that environment coupled with the product of how your brain is configured and wired that mean rejection sensitivity dysphoria is a real thing for you. And it can mean that you're more susceptible and more vulnerable to certain people.
Well, different attachment styles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I look at your daughter and I'm just like, she's going to have the best secure attachment because like she's just got that wonderful supportive environment that she's growing up in. And, you know, I think that regardless of, you know, best intentions sometimes, right? Parents of a different generation don't have the skills, the resources, or the emotional maturity to always be able to be there in the way that you need it. And so when you have an anxious attachment style or an avoidant attachment style, or my favorite, which is mine, the anxious avoidant attachment style.
It's fun.
It's so fun.
It's a party. It's a party.
Is. But knowing those, I think, is and it really comes down to, you know, really understanding and knowing yourself so that you can understand what your triggers are and then be able to build into that the support that you need, particularly for RSDs, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, understanding that when sometimes I might call a friend and they may not pick up, and then I call another friend and they may not pick up, and I call another friend and they may not pick up. And, you know, usually what will happen is that I will go into a downward spiral and then all three people will try to call me back at the same time.
Why do you go into a downward spiral though? Like what? They didn't answer.
I start catastrophizing that I've done something that they are three completely different people.
Yeah.
Three completely different circles.
And in your head,
in my head, they all hate me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're not picking up because I've done something horrendous to insult them. I've offended their grandmother in a previous life.
Yeah. So your default narrative
is to assume it's me.
Is to assume it's you.
Yeah.
And so as you say that, like, and this is what I've loved doing this pod too, right? Like, I'm learning so much about you in a different level.
Learning about you.
all about you.
The
But
musical episode comes later.
we'll do that as maybe a special add-in. But like, yeah, it's to me because it's like I call 3 different people and they don't answer. Like I don't even think about it. Like I just
You've forgotten that you've rung them.
yeah, true. They ring later. I'm like, oh, you've called. Why have you called? Oh, because you called me. Did I? I can't even remember what it was I was calling them about. But it's just so not even a thing in my day. But for you, it can be like a real derailer of your day and a huge cause of stress for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And the same way as I guess with my like sensory environment, it's like, it's the fact that sensory triggers and stuff like that, it's like almost like low level pain. So like bright lights for me actually give me like a physical headache or a response, or which again for me to pick up and notice that that's what's happening in my body. Yay me. But it means it's pretty bad, right? Or like certain things will actually induce nausea or feel like my skin is crawling or like it's on fire. And like I think for you, like that was like what? Yeah. Like that's because it's just again it's your body and your brain and how you perceive and interact with the world.
Yeah.
And mine, and it's so completely different, but we can never really appreciate what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes or be in their body.
Absolutely. And I think how it shows up for people is very different too. I mean, like for ADHD people, rejection sensitivity shows up in such a way as to literally, you can, because we're so good at picking up body cues and patterns and things like that, but again, not really understanding the psychology of what's going on in somebody else's brain because we don't have a window to see into that. And so somebody
and even if you did, it would be like it was written in an entirely different language or like an impressionist painting that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Sometimes I think it's just the monkey with the symbols claiming, or 250 tabs open in a browser and one of them is vaguely playing music.
Yep. Just one.
I don't know which one.
It's not the movie one. It's the other one. Yeah.
And so I think we can often interpret things like it could be an expression, it could be a gesture, it could be an offhand remark, it could be a full stop in a text message. And we've interpreted that as being, okay, this person hates us and they never want to speak to us again.
Yeah.
It can also potentially be, reject them before they reject you, because that's just an ongoing sensitivity that, if I have a need here, I'm going to reject this person before they have a chance to hear my need and say no and then reject me in return.
Yeah. So you like push away.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to talk about this too because, I've had different environmental and situational stuff in my life. So I've lived independently like since I was 16 and stuff like that, right? So in my life and different parts of my life, I definitely have experienced that where it's just like the slightest sense that somebody's going to be walking away from me. It's like, no, I'm going to slam that door first and, I'm going to push you out too. So then in that sense that it won't hurt me in the same way. So it's like if I reject you before you reject me, it's somehow going to hurt less.
Yeah.
And again, spoiler alert, it does not.
No.
But
it just creates higher and higher walls and barriers for people to be able to make their way through.
Yeah, and to break back in. And it's kind of like, it's the same as if you say the bad thing about yourself before someone else does, then it hurts less when they say it again. It doesn't. But it's this faulty logic and responses and reactions. But I think, the difference for me is like there were patches in my life where that's absolutely happened and it's almost like situational, but it's this that it's not always related. Like I don't relate that back to I've done something wrong or I'm deficient or, I'm needing to seek praise or feedback or reassurance from other people. But yeah, there's definitely my knee jerk is to push people away.
Yeah.
Or to fight, is probably
fight, freeze,
yeah. And yours is more to avoid and to push things away. So it's a very healthy dynamic.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because again, as a sexologist, right? Like this word I heard the other day and it's really stuck with me. And, it's funny when you find a label for yourself and even if, you don't necessarily like the word, again, there could be a meaning behind it that there's a nugget in there that you can take away. And the word was called limerence. And I thought it had a completely different meaning.
I'm seeing unicorns and glitter.
100%.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of what I thought it was. And then I thought maybe I was thinking of the word limerick, and I was wrong.
Also different.
Also different, although the limericks we came up with for ourselves
were amazing.
Were hilarious. So limerence is an involuntary state of mind where you form a romantic attachment to another person that is combined with an overwhelming need to have those feelings returned.
Can you break that down slower for my slow brain?
So it is an involuntary state of mind.
Yeah.
So involuntary right there, which I thought was an interesting term,
Yeah.
where you form a romantic attachment to somebody, but then you have this overwhelming drive to get that person to return those romantic sentiments.
So it's almost like a hyperfixation
It's
on a person.
hyperfixation, and it's
getting
dopamine
their feelings.
rush.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And unfortunately, task hyperfixation with impulsivity and a lack of emotional regulation, I made some really terrible choices.
Yeah. That was then, this is now.
Yeah.
She's okay. She was doing the best she could at the time.
Yeah. Learn a lot of lessons along the way.
And it's also, as well as you say that too, right? Like in our early lives, right? Everything feels bigger, right? Everything is so much more pronounced, right? And teenage years, and if you're in your teenage years or you're in, your early 20s and you're listening to this pod, right? Like, and I'm this boring old woman in my 40s now. And
Wouldn't
it's
say
like,
boring.
We'll see. But like, yeah, this boring old woman in my 40s. And I love her, by the way. She's amazing. But everything's so much more dulled now. And it's just, I think, because in those teenage years and in the early 20s, don't necessarily have that perspective. You don't necessarily have all those years and the fluctuations and the variations of things that happen in life. So, the first time something happens, it's always a lot more memorable. It always hurts, like the first person that you lose, the first relationship, the first romantic relationship, the first pet. All of these different things are so pronounced and they're so much bigger, and it happens again and again and again and again.
And you
through
build
our
up that
lives.
resilience.
And you build up your resilience, but you also know you can get through it. And so, like, if you are experiencing these big feelings and having a big time of it, it will pass. And, it's absolutely okay to reach out and get some help and to get some support to help those feelings pass. But instead of wrestling with them, instead of fighting with them, just allowing them to pass through you a little bit more, like, and knowing that we change our minds literally hundreds or thousands of times a day. We experience hundreds of feelings and thoughts and emotions and sensations every single day. And just acknowledging, meet your needs, but acknowledging that they'll can't pass, they'll come and go. And the more we try and suppress them sometimes, the more we try and bury them deep down and let them out later, the more we try and struggle with them, the more we try and wrestle with them or tell ourselves that it's a bad feeling or it's a bad emotion or it's wrong. The bigger they get, like the more they build up like a pressure cooker until you do actually blow. And then it's a big deal.
Yeah. And I think before we end this episode, I think it's probably a really good place to invite our listeners to reflect on how you've built resilience over the years, like the things that have happened to you, whether that have made you more sensitive or less sensitive, and maybe some areas of your life where you might want to be more sensitive, and you might want to be able to name your feelings in another area so that you're less sensitive about it. So that once you name your emotions, they become much easier to manage.
They sure do. We say name it to tame it.
Name it to tame it.
It's the first step, absolutely the first step. And again, if you're a neurodivergent person and you happen to also be alexithymic, and that's where you've got difficulties with the cognition in your brain and the emotion part of your brain kind of don't talk to each other all that well, and it's linked to lower levels of interoception, right? It can be hard sometimes to name our emotions, like, and if you start with okay, not okay, that's a great place to start. Like, are you feeling okay right now? Okay, well, what's in okay? Is it happiness? Is it surprise? Is it excitement? What are some of those other things? And just gradually breaking it down and making it deeper and deeper. And there's a really good app that we both love, and I've forgotten the name of the app. This
called
is so funny.
How We Feel.
How We Feel. I can tell you it's a black looking app. It's a black background. It's got like a red dot and a blue dot and a green dot and a yellow dot, but just starting with these zones of emotional regulation, and it's got all the feelings there, and it's amazing. And I think it's still free. I think last I checked, and I do use it quite a bit with clients. And you can register how you're feeling throughout the day. You can get data, you can get patterns and see, when you're feeling certain things or when you're going to be in certain zones throughout the day.
And I think their privacy policy was pretty good too, but always read the privacy policy.
Yeah.
At the time, it did actually say that all of the data was stored on your own phone, not on a separate server somewhere else. So it was one of the things that made me want to download it and actually use it. And it is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's even got coaching exercises in there, you know, if you're feeling a certain way, you know, to help you process and think about your feelings differently. It's really cool.
100%.
Yeah. So that can be a fun one to do as you reflect on sensitive and what that looks like for you. You know, is it more the emotional world? Is it the rejection world? Is it all the feels? Is it more like a sensory thing and like your whole environment, everything feels like really intense and your body doesn't feel safe?
Or is it all the above? You need to cut all the tags off your clothes and throw out anything that's synthetic or doesn't feel good.
Yeah. And the people as well along with it. So great opportunity to pause and to reflect. And then next time we come back, we'll look at sensitive more from a reframing perspective and feeling a bit more compassionate and curious about what's happening there.
And our 2 wonderful spice jar tips.
Yeah, they're good this week, I think.
I'm really happy with them. So we're looking forward to seeing you next week. And as always, stay spicy.
Stay spicy. You're listening to the NeuroSpice Life podcast
with Hanna and Freya, besties, brains, and more.
If you've enjoyed listening, follow us on YouTube or your favourite podcast app and share it with someone else who knows the sting of a sticky label.
We'll see you next time. Until then, stay spicy, stay wonderful.